They say a birthday is supposed to be the one day you feel truly seen, except when you're in my family. I'm Callum Eric, 32 years old, oldest of 3 sisters, the one they say was born to pave the way for the others. I used to believe that. Used to wear that invisible crown, so tight it left dents in my skull. But this year, on the morning of my birthday, the crown slipped, and I realized they'd buried it for good. The day started with sunlight. No calls, no messages. I could almost hear my phone mocking me every time I checked it. But I held my head high, poured my coffee, and waited for the annual group text. I told myself they were planning something huge, something so secret that even my sister Mora's big mouth hadn't spilled it. She's never kept a secret longer than 5 minutes, but hope makes fools of us all. By noon, my stomach gnawed with a mix of coffee and dread. That's when I found the message thread. I shouldn't have looked. Maybe I wanted to hurt myself. Some people pour whiskey into old wounds. I pour curiosity. There it was. Our family chat. The last message was from Dad. Don't forget tonight. Mora's big promotion dinner. So proud of our girl. I read it twice. Once like I was someone else. Then again like I was me. Same result. Not a single mention that the same night, the same dinner, was the night I was born. Or maybe they'd decided it didn't matter. That I didn't matter. I tried to swallow it. Tried to remind myself that family is complicated, that I'm older, that Mora deserves her moment. She's the baby. 10 years younger, the one with the perfect teeth, the perfect boyfriend, the job at Dad's company. The one they brag about to neighbors while I'm the footnote. The ... that trails off in an uncomfortable silence when they can't explain what I do for a living. They think I travel too much. That I waste money. That my boutique investment firm is just a hobby until I get a real job. They don't know that their precious company almost went under last year. And the mysterious investor who pulled them back from the brink was me. They signed the papers without reading the fine print. Now they celebrate Mora's promotion in a company they don't even own anymore. I do. And I was going to keep that to myself. Truly, I was. Until they forgot me. By 5 o'clock, I knew what I had to do. I'd show up. Not as the forgotten daughter. Not as the disappointment. I'd show up as the owner. The one they'd always underestimated. The one they'd talk about forever after tonight. I stood in front of my wardrobe, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. I touched the sleeve of the navy dress I bought in Milan last spring, too sharp for family dinners, too bold for the boring sister. Tonight, it was perfect, power in silk form. The restaurant was a rooftop place, all glass and steel and twinkling city lights that made everyone feel richer than they were. I caught my reflection in the elevator, chin up, shoulders back, eyes clear. I wasn't Kala the afterthought anymore. I was Kala the CEO, the savior they'd never thanked. The elevator doors slid open to laughter. My mother's laugh, bright and fake, echoing like a champagne glass about to shatter. Mora's boyfriend, Trevor, was mid-toast, raising a glass of something expensive over the long oak table. Mora sat next to Dad, all teeth and dimples, holding court like a princess at her coronation. No one noticed me at first. I hovered by the host stand, my pulse ticking. Part of me wanted to run, to skip the drama and let them keep their delusions. But the other part, the part that remembered every overlooked birthday card, every second choice, every maybe next time, that part wanted blood. I stepped forward. A server caught my eye, nodded like he'd been expecting me all along, and whisked me to the head of the table. And there it was, my empty seat. No gift, no card, no candle. Just an empty plate waiting for someone they didn't even realize was missing. Kala, Mora squealed, her voice dripping in surprise that wasn't entirely pleasant. You made it. Dad turned, blinking like he'd seen a ghost. Mom's mouth formed a tight smile that made her lipstick crack. Trevor said nothing. He knew better. I sat down, smoothing my dress, feeling the weight of my secret press into my spine like an iron rod. They looked at me like they were trying to decide if I'd come to cause trouble, or if I was just lonely enough to crash my sister's big night. "You didn't think I'd miss this, did you?" I said, my voice sugar and steel. Dad cleared his throat. "Of course not, sweetheart. We were just about to order. It's been a big day for Mora. A big day. Not for me. Not for the one who made this dinner possible, who kept their legacy alive when they didn't even know it was dying." Mora leaned closer, lowering her voice like we were in on some grand joke. "I hope you don't mind, but it's kind of my night, so can we not do any weird family drama stuff, okay?" I smiled. "Of course, no drama." Then I lifted my glass. The server poured without me asking. Good man. I let the bubbles settle, watched my family lean in, waiting for me to say the polite thing. To fade back into the shadow like I always did. "To Mora," I said, raising my glass. "May she enjoy the corner office while it lasts." They froze. Dad's brow furrowed. Mom's fork clinked against her plate. Mora giggled nervously. "What's that supposed to mean?" I tilted my head. "It means, dear sister, that your promotion is a lovely gesture. A sweet pat on the head from the board, except the board doesn't actually make those decisions anymore." Dad's face went pale. "What are you talking about, Kala?" I pulled the folder from my bag, the folder I'd carried around for months, waiting for the right moment. Tonight was perfect. I slid it across the table to Dad. "I'm talking about this." He flipped it open. "Read the words. Read them again." His hands trembled. I heard Mom's sharp inhale. Mora's eyes darted between us, confusion blooming into dread. I leaned back, feeling the sweet burn of the champagne. "Happy birthday to me, right?" And in that breathless, heavy moment, before they could sputter, before they could beg, before they could try to spin it, I felt more alive than I had in years. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow I have a special story for you. The silence at that rooftop table could have drowned out the city itself. I watched my father's fingers tremble over the fine, cream-colored paper that spelled out my revenge in tidy legal language. Every word was like a match dropped into dry grass. Small sparks, gathering heat, waiting to become a wildfire. Mora stared at me, the fake champagne bubbles going flat in her glass. Her promotion certificate lay tucked neatly into her clutch bag, as fragile as her confidence. She didn't understand yet, not fully. But Dad did. He looked at me like he'd just noticed there was a snake in his garden, and realized he'd been feeding it milk for years. "Kala," he said at last, voice rough with disbelief. "What is this?" I leaned forward, folding my hands on the linen tablecloth, the picture of calm power. "It's the future, Dad. My future. And yours, if you're smart enough to let go." Mom opened her mouth but snapped it shut when I locked eyes with her. Trevor fidgeted with his watch, his eyes darting to Mora like he wanted her to say something to make it all go back to normal. But it wouldn't. "Not tonight." "It's a joke," Mora said, laughing. She sounded like a scared child pretending to be brave. "Dad, she's kidding. You can't just own Merrick Holdings overnight." "Overnight?" I let out a small laugh, no warmth in it. "Mora, do you think the world just gives you things overnight? No. You sign contracts. You negotiate. You wait. You find people who believe in you, not because they share your blood, but because they know you're worth the risk." I tapped the file in Dad's hand. "And when your family is too blind to see your worth, you buy them out, piece by piece, quietly, while they're busy planning your sister's big promotion party instead of your birthday." Dad's jaw clenched. "Kala, you can't." "I can. I did." The server approached to clear plates, but one look at our table, and he wisely backed away. The other diners around us cast glances like they were watching a soap opera unfold in real time. Good. Let them watch. Let this night be burned into every corner of my family's memory. Mora slammed her glass down, splashing wine across her white dress. "This is insane. You can't do this to me." "To you?" I asked, incredulous. Sweetheart, this was never about you. It's about me. For once. For the first damn time in decades, this is about me. Dad looked like he might be sick. Kala. The board. I cut him off with a smile sharp enough to draw blood. The board is gone. Dissolved when the debt restructure went through. Check the last amendment, Dad. You signed it yourself. I am the sole majority shareholder now. You run the day-to-day? Only if I let you. Mom found her voice then, her tone all forced calm, the same tone she'd used when I was 6 and found out Santa wasn't real. Kala, honey, we're family. We can work this out. You can't just hold this over us. I'm not holding anything over you. I leaned back, my fingers drumming the table. I'm telling you how it's going to be. No more favoritism. No more golden child. No more pretending that my sacrifices never counted. You want to run the company? Earn it. Prove you can keep it profitable, under me. Maura pushed her chair back, standing so fast it almost toppled. You're ruining everything. No, Maura, I said softly. I'm saving everything. The company, the family name. You didn't even know how close you were to losing it all. If I hadn't stepped in, you'd be working retail right now. Or maybe you'd be out on the street while Dad's legacy sank to the bottom of the stock exchange. But I didn't let that happen. And you never thanked me. You never even asked. Maura's eyes were wide, glittering with hot tears she couldn't let fall in front of all these strangers. You're doing this now? On my night? I tilted my head, just slightly. It's my night too, or did you forget? Dad tried to stand but sank back down, the weight of the folder heavy in his lap. What do you want, Kala? He asked hoarsely. Just tell us what you want. I felt a flicker of the little girl I used to be, the one who would have given anything for him to say that with sincerity. But that girl was gone. In her place was a woman who'd learned that you can't build your self-worth from someone else's scraps. I want respect, I said. I want acknowledgement. I want my birthday to matter. And I want Maura's promotion to be real. Earned, not handed out like a consolation prize for being the pretty one. Maura's lip trembled. I worked for this. Did you? I asked. Did you really? Or did you work just enough to play the role they needed you to play while they assumed I'd be fine being in the shadows forever? The air went cold. Even the city lights seemed to dim. Dad rubbed his temples. Mom looked ready to faint. Trevor finally spoke, his voice a whisper. Kala, please. Let's go somewhere private. Let's talk this through. I shook my head. No more secrets. Not tonight. I stood up, pushing my chair back. The city skyline sparkled behind me, a kingdom laid out at my feet. I looked each of them in the eye, one by one. I'll be at the office tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. You want to keep your titles? Be there. Show me you're worth the paper your names are printed on. I didn't wait for their protests. I turned and walked away, each step heavy but freeing, like I was shaking off years of invisible chains. When I stepped into the elevator, I caught my reflection once more. The girl who used to beg for their love was gone. The woman who owned them, owned everything they thought they had, stood in her place. The doors slid shut on their stunned faces. The restaurant floor hummed above me, voices muffled by glass and distance. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel second best. I felt unstoppable. And deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. The next part picks up exactly here. The next morning, the city felt sharper, more alive. I woke before dawn, not because I had to, but because I wanted to feel the hum of power I'd claimed. It was my birthday still, in my mind. My rebirth, really. Every step across my apartment felt like I was learning how to walk all over again, but with steel in my bones, instead of doubt. I dressed in silence, pulling on a charcoal gray suit that fit me like armor. I didn't reach for jewelry except for my watch, solid gold, a gift to myself when my first investment flipped triple returns. I liked the weight of it on my wrist, the reminder that my time was finally mine. When the elevator opened to the lobby, the doorman, Peter, gave me a bright smile. "Big day, Miss Merrick." "Biggest yet, Peter," I said, and meant it. The town car was waiting at the curb. I'd hired it for effect. Let them see me arrive like the woman they'd ignored all these years was someone to watch now. The driver opened the door with a nod. I climbed in, the leather seat cold against my palms, and looked out the tinted window at the early morning traffic. People scurried on sidewalks, heads bent, shoulders hunched against a breeze that hadn't yet decided to be spring or winter. It felt symbolic. The old season wasn't quite done, but the new one was pushing through, relentless. When we pulled up to Merrick Holdings, the glass tower rose above me like a monument to every slight, every whispered, "Should have been Mora." I tipped the driver generously, stepped out, and felt the doorman's eyes on me as I strode through the revolving door. Inside, the lobby gleamed, a vast ocean of marble and glass. The receptionist, a young man named Ethan I'd only met once, straightened when he saw me. "Ms. Merrick," he said, his voice pitching higher with surprise. "Your family is upstairs in the boardroom. They, said you'd be coming, did they?" I said with a soft smile. "Good. Send up coffee, the good stuff. None of that stale drip they try to pass off as executive blend." He laughed nervously, fumbling for the phone. I left him to it, my heels clicking on marble as I headed for the elevator. Each floor we climbed, I felt lighter, like I was floating up to meet the version of myself I'd buried for too long. When the doors opened, the hush of the executive floor pressed in. I could hear them before I saw them. Dad's low rumble, Mora's sharp whine, Mom's tight, hissed words that made the hair on my neck stand up. They sounded like they'd aged 10 years overnight. Good, let them stew. I stepped into the boardroom without knocking. All three of them turned to look at me as if they'd seen a ghost. The long table was littered with printouts, coffee cups, and half-eaten pastries no one had touched. Dad's tie was crooked. Mom's hair was pinned up but frizzed at the edges. Mora looked like she'd been crying for hours, her eyes red-rimmed but defiant. "Morning," I said, dropping my bag on the table. "Let's get started." Dad cleared his throat. "Kala, No." I held up a hand. "We're not starting with Kala, we're starting with facts. Fact 1. Merrick Holdings was drowning when I stepped in. Fact 2. You signed over controlling interest because you didn't read what you were signing. Fact 3. I saved this company while you were busy throwing Mora birthday dinners that doubled as promotion parties." Mora flinched but said nothing. Good. I spread out my own folder, thicker than the one I'd given Dad last night. I could see him eyeing it like it might bite. "Here's how this works," I continued. "I'm not here to destroy you. Despite what you may think, I'm here to make sure this company doesn't eat itself alive with nepotism and half-baked ideas. You want to stay on? Fine. You earn it, starting now." Dad's face turned blotchy. "You can't." "I can," I said coolly. "And I have. You're free to leave, Dad. Retire. Spend your days on the golf course you keep complaining about never having time for. But if you want a seat at this table, you work for it now. Just like everyone else." Mom looked like she wanted to cry, but wouldn't give me the satisfaction. "Kala, please. This isn't how family works." "Family?" I laughed, a sound that bounced off the glass walls. "Family forgot my birthday. Family made me feel like I was a spare part to be used when it was convenient. This is business, and this is mine." Mora's voice cracked as she finally spoke up. "What about me?" I met her eyes. "What about you?" "I earned my promotion." "Did you?" I shot back. "Or did Dad hand it to you because he thought it would keep you happy enough to stick around? Do you even know what you're supposed to do in that office, Mora? Do you know what your department actually produces?" She said nothing. Her silence was an answer. I sighed. "You want the corner office? Prove it. You've got 90 days. Show me results. Show me you can lead. If you can't, I'll find someone who can." Her chin trembled. "You'd fire me?" I leaned forward. "I'd fire myself if I was failing. That's what leaders do." Dad slammed his palm on the table. "You're destroying this family." No, I said, voice low and steady. I'm saving it. Or did you think dragging us all down with you was a better plan? The room went quiet again. I let the silence stretch, letting the truth hang in the air like smoke. They needed this. They needed to see what I'd become. I pushed the thick folder across the table. Read it. Memorize it. This is the new playbook. You want to survive? Learn it. I stood. Meeting adjourned. I've got real work to do. I turned, ignoring their stunned expressions, and walked out. Outside, the city glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows like it was waiting for me. The receptionist handed me my coffee as I stepped into the elevator. "Everything okay, Ms. Merrick?" he asked, wide-eyed. I took a sip, savoring the taste of the good stuff. "Everything's perfect, Ethan." The doors slid shut, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't just part of the company. I was the company. The next part picks up exactly here. The elevator hummed its soft song as I descended from the executive floor, each level a marker of the distance I'd put between the woman I used to be and the woman I'd just shown them. The coffee in my hand was hot and perfect, its warmth grounding me as my reflection stared back from polished chrome walls. My face looked the same, but there was something in my eyes now, a defiance, a spark that couldn't be snuffed out by polite neglect or forced smiles. When the doors opened, Ethan gave me a quick nod, as if he'd just seen a ghost that terrified and impressed him at the same time. I didn't linger. I stepped out into the street, the city air-bracing and alive. For the first time, I didn't feel the chill. My phone buzzed. A message from my assistant, Jess. Board meeting notes finalized. Investor presentation ready for your review. Also, happy birthday, boss. You want the usual macarons from LaBelle? Asterisk. I couldn't help but smile. Jess was the one who'd stayed up with me in countless hotel lobbies, finalizing merger documents while my family never asked where I was. The only one who knew every hidden line of every contract that tied this company to me like a steel thread. Asterisk. Get them. Asterisk. I texted back. Asterisk. I'll be back in an hour. Asterisk. I needed air. Needed to feel the ground beneath my feet as something other than a battlefield. I walked through downtown, the city waking up properly now. Office workers bustled past, eyes glued to phones, hands wrapped around cardboard cups of caffeine and excuses. None of them knew who I was. To them, I was just another sharp-suited woman on her way to something important. I liked that. I turned onto 7th Street, where the old park still sat wedged between glass towers. It looked so small now. I remembered sitting on its rusted swings as a teenager, scribbling half-baked business plans into a battered notebook, while Maura practiced her homecoming queen speech at Dad's office. I remembered Mom's voice on the phone. "Why don't you come home more, Calla? Maura misses you." But Maura never called. She never asked where I was. Neither did they. A jogger brushed past me, his music bleeding from his headphones. The swing set still creaked with the weight of kids too young to know what betrayal tasted like. I found a bench, sat down, and let the hum of the city wrap around me. I pulled my phone from my bag and dialed a number I hadn't called in months. My lawyer, Nolan, picked up on the second ring. "Calla, everything okay?" "Better than okay," I said. "It's done. They know." He whistled low. "About damn time. How'd they take it?" Like someone pulled the rug out from under 50 years of delusion. But that's not why I called. I stared out at the kids swinging, the parents sipping coffee on splintered benches. "I want you to draft a new arrangement. I'm not cutting them off. But I want it clear. They're employees now, Nolan. They earn every paycheck. No more golden handshakes. No more bonuses for showing up. If Maura wants that office, she works for it. If Dad wants to stay on as advisor, he shows value quarterly. If they can't handle it, they're out." "Understood." Nolan's voice softened. "You okay, Calla?" I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. "I'm better than I've ever been." I ended the call, watched a mother lift her toddler from a swing, laughing as the child shrieked in delight. It made my chest ache in a way I didn't want to name. I stood up, brushed invisible dust from my coat, and walked back through the park's rusted gates, The city seemed to bend around me as I returned to the office. Back in the lobby, Ethan stood up so fast he almost knocked over his desk plant. "Ms. Merrick, the regional director is waiting in conference room B. Jess said you'd want to see him now." "Perfect." I didn't break stride. "And Ethan? Order yourself lunch on the company, something nice." His grin made me think of what loyalty really looked like. When I stepped into the conference room, I found Mr. Harris, regional director for the Midwest Division, flipping through a stack of reports. He jumped when he saw me. "Ms. Merrick, I wasn't expecting you so soon." "Surprise seems to be a theme this week," I said, sitting across from him. "You know why you're here?" His throat bobbed. I assume it's about the Q1 numbers." "Correct." I tapped the folder Jess had prepared for me. "Your numbers are down 12%, yet your expenses have ballooned by 15%. You want to explain that?" Harris stammered. "There were unforeseen challenges. Some new hires didn't pan out. The Chicago office needed renovations." "Renovations." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "On leased property we're vacating next year?" He went silent. I let the moment stretch. Then I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the sprawl of rooftops. "Do you know why my father's generation let you run wild, Harris? Because they didn't pay attention. They thought loyalty alone was enough to keep the company afloat." "It wasn't." I turned back to him, eyes level. "You have 60 days to turn this around, or you're gone." Harris swallowed. "Yes, Ms. Merrick." "Good." I slid a smaller folder toward him. "And here's your roadmap. Follow it. No more dinners on the expense card. No more client entertainment that looks suspiciously like your wife's shopping sprees." His eyes darted up wide. "You had me followed?" "No," I said calmly. "I had your numbers followed. They don't lie. People do." When he left, shoulders slumped. I sat back down and let the silence settle in. Jess knocked softly before peeking in. "Macarons," she said, placing a delicate box on the table. "Pistachio and rose, your favorites, and your next meeting's ready." "Thank you, Jess." I opened the box, letting the sweet scent wash over me. I hadn't had a birthday cake in years. This would do. As I savored the first bite, I let my mind drift to what came next. The investors would expect explanations. The press would come sniffing. The employees, good ones like Jess, needed to know they were safe. But the rest, the ones who rode the Merrick name like a gilded train, they'd feel the rails buckle soon enough. My phone buzzed again. Maura. I stared at her name for a long moment before answering. "Calla?" Her voice was small, brittle. "I need to talk to you." I bit into another macaron. "Then talk. Not like this, face to face, please." She paused, the sound of her shaky breath filling the silence. "I'm outside your office." I looked up at the glass wall, and there she was, my baby sister, clutching her designer purse like it was a shield. She looked so young, so out of her depth, so desperate to pull me back into the sister I used to be. I took a slow breath. "Come in, Maura." As the door clicked shut behind her, I realized something with a clarity so sharp it almost made me laugh. This wasn't the climax. This was the prologue. The next part picks up exactly here. Maura stood just inside my office door, framed by the city skyline that stretched behind the glass like a kingdom she thought she'd rule by default. Her fingers twisted around the strap of her purse, knuckles white, eyes rimmed red but fierce beneath the shine of tears she refused to shed. I gestured to the seat across from me. She hesitated, then walked over and sat, folding her legs like she needed them to anchor her to the earth. "Coffee?" I asked, as if we were two normal sisters catching up, not two players in a battle that would redraw every line of our family's legacy. "No," she said quickly. "No coffee. I can't stomach it right now." I watched her, trying to remember the last time we'd sat alone like this. Maybe never. There was always someone else around. Dad, Mom, Trevor. Someone to remind her that she was the favored one, and I was the afterthought. But there was no one here now. Just us and the truth hovering like smoke in the corners. She cleared her throat. I know you think you're doing the right thing, and maybe you are. But Calla, you blindsided us. You blindsided me. I raised an eyebrow. Blindsided you? Or made you look at the truth you've been ignoring? Mora's eyes flared. Don't do that. Don't talk to me like I'm some spoiled child. I worked hard for that promotion. I leaned back, folding my arms. Did you? Or did you just work enough to convince Dad he wasn't making a mistake? Tell me, Mora, what was the last decision you made in that office that didn't come with his approval stamped on it before you even opened your mouth? She flinched. A tiny, almost imperceptible shudder. But I saw it. I'm trying, she whispered. I really am. I know I'm not perfect, but you made me look like a joke last night. In front of everyone. On my promotion dinner. My birthday dinner. I cut in sharply. She went quiet. The silence stretched so thin I could feel the building creak around it. I didn't ask for this, you know, she said finally, voice cracking. I didn't ask to be the golden child. I didn't ask for Mom and Dad to compare us like some stupid contest. You think I liked it? Watching you pull away? Watching you hate me for things I couldn't control? Her words slammed into me like a cold wave. I opened my mouth, then shut it. I didn't hate her. Not really. I hated what she represented. How easy it was for her to be loved, to be wanted, to be enough. She leaned forward, eyes pleading. I want to fix this, Calla. I don't want us to be this. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to be better. I'll do it. Something inside me softened, but only a fraction. I reached for the box of macarons Jess had left. I pushed it toward her. Eat something, I said. Then we talk. She stared at the delicate pastries like they might bite her. Then she picked the rose one, took a tiny bite, and wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I was so scared you'd hate me forever, she said, voice muffled by the sweetness. I kept thinking, what if this is it? What if we never speak again? I tapped my fingers against my desk. I don't hate you, Mora. But you need to understand. This isn't about just you and me anymore. This company, it's bigger than us. If you want to keep that office, you have to prove you belong there. I'm not handing you anything because we share DNA. She nodded, her jaw set. Fine. Then help me. Teach me. Show me how to be like you. That caught me off guard. I barked a short laugh. Be like me? You've spent your whole life trying to be everything but me. She looked down at her hands. And where did that get me? I let the weight of that settle. Outside, the city hummed, unaware that a tiny revolution was happening, 15 stories up. All right, I said finally. 90 days. You work under me. No special treatment. No skipped steps. You'll hate me by the end of it. I already do sometimes, she said, a ghost of a smile flickering across her lips. I snorted. Fair enough. Then, it's settled. 90 days. You show me you're more than a pretty face and a famous last name. And maybe you get to keep that corner office. She took another bite of the macaron, then stood. Okay. What now? I pushed back from my desk, the leather chair creaking under the shift. Now you come with me to the floor. You're going to learn what this place looks like from the ground up. And Mora? She paused, her hand on the door. Leave the purse. You won't need it where we're going. For the first time since she walked in, she laughed. It was soft, real, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard since we were kids fighting over the last cookie. Mom pretended she didn't bake for us both. She dropped the purse on my desk and followed me out. Jess caught my eye as we passed. New intern? She asked under her breath, her lips twitching. Something like that, I said. The rest of the day blurred into a whirlwind of meetings, factory floor visits, introductions to managers who looked stunned to see the, quote, princess of Merrick Holdings standing in steel-toe boots beside me. She listened, nodded, asked questions, Some good, some painfully naive. But she tried. For the first time in her life, she really tried. We ended the day at a late-shift warehouse, where the night team sorted shipments for dawn delivery. Maura leaned against a stack of crates, exhausted but wired. "Is it always like this?" she asked. I shrugged. "When you care enough, yes." She looked up at me, her hair escaping its perfect twist, sweat beading at her temples. "Then I want it. I really do. Teach me, Calla, please." I saw her then. Not the promotion dinner golden girl, not the family's favorite, but my sister. My kid sister, terrified and brave all at once. "All right," I said, offering my hand. "But remember, this was your idea." She took it. Her grip was firm, stronger than I expected. As we stood there, under the hum of fluorescent lights and the hum of forklifts moving in the shadows, I realized this was the start of something neither of us could walk away from now. This family, this company, this legacy. It was mine to protect. But maybe, just maybe, it was ours to rebuild. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now, back to the story. The next part picks up exactly here. The warehouse lights flickered as we stepped out into the night. The air was damp, heavy with the promise of rain. Maura walked beside me in silence, the echo of our footsteps blending with the low rumble of delivery trucks pulling away into the dark. She looked different already, her designer blouse now smudged with dust from the crates she'd insisted on helping to move. She'd tried. I had to give her that. She'd lifted, taken notes, asked questions without flinching when the shift supervisor barked at her for standing too close to a forklift. She hadn't run away, and that meant something. We reached my car, a sleek black sedan that gleamed under the single yellow streetlight. I unlocked it and nodded toward the passenger side. "Get in, I'll drop you home." She hesitated. "Aren't you going back to your place?" "I am, but you're not coming with me." She opened the door without another word. We drove through the city in silence, the windshield wipers squeaking as drizzle turned to steady rain. Red brake lights reflected on wet asphalt like a broken string of rubies. "Do you think they're talking about us right now?" she asked suddenly, her voice thin. "Who?" "Mom, Dad, Trevor, the rest of them." I kept my eyes on the road. "Of course they are. What do you think they're saying?" "That I'm heartless, that you're naive, that this won't last." She sank into her seat. "Are they right?" I let the question hang. A raindrop rolled down the side window like a tear neither of us wanted to claim. "No," I said finally. "They're not right, but we'll see." She turned to me. "Why didn't you ever tell me? About the buyout, about everything. Would you have believed me if I did?" Her silence was answer enough. When we pulled up to her apartment building, she hesitated with her hand on the door handle. "You'll come by tomorrow? To check in?" I almost laughed. "I'm your boss now, Maura. You'll see me every day." A flicker of a smile tugged at her lips. "Right." She opened the door, paused, then looked back at me. "Good night, Calla." I watched her walk through the lobby, her shoulders squared like she was daring the world to see her as more than the golden girl, with nothing to prove. When she disappeared inside, I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, and let the weight of it all settle on my chest. The rain tapped the roof of the car in an insistent rhythm, like a clock ticking down to the next battle I knew was waiting. The next morning, the office buzzed with a strange energy. Whispers followed me as I passed through the halls. Snippets of conversation cut short when I turned my head, eyes darting away like guilty children. "Did you hear? I thought Mr. Merrick was still in charge." "She owns it now, all of it." Let them talk. The truth needed to settle like dust before it became stone. Jess met me at my office door, tablet in hand. "Morning, boss. Your 9 o'clock is waiting in conference room 3. You want me to run interference?" "Who is it?" She checked her notes. "Dad." Her eyes flicked up to mine. "And your mother." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Fine, let's get this over with. Conference room 3 was all glass and polished wood. The city spread out behind my parents like a kingdom they still thought they ruled. Dad stood with his back to me, hands clasped behind him, staring down at the streets below. Mom perched on the edge of a leather chair, her purse clenched in her lap like a life raft. "You look tired," I said by way of greeting. Mom's head snapped up. "This is killing your father, Kala. He didn't sleep all night, neither did I." "You should get some rest then. You're going to need it." Dad turned slowly, his eyes rimmed red. "You think this is funny, watching us squirm?" "No," I said flatly. "If it were funny, I'd be laughing. I'm not." Mom's voice rose, sharp. "You've made your point. You've humiliated us enough. You've humiliated your sister." "Mora's doing fine," I interrupted. "Better than you think." Dad's lip curled. "This is not how we do things in this family." "Funny. You're the one who taught me to protect what's mine at all costs." I stepped closer, letting the weight of my presence fill the room. "I did exactly that." He looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. I wondered if he even recognized the woman standing in front of him. Part of me hoped he didn't. "What do you want, Kala?" Mom asked quietly. "An apology? Is that what this is about?" "No," I said, voice low. "I don't want an apology. I want accountability. I want you both to understand that from here on out, you don't get to make decisions without me. You don't get to prop Mora up as the savior of this company when she hasn't earned it yet. You don't get to push me aside because it's convenient." Dad bristled. "I built this company." "And you almost lost it," I snapped. "I saved it. Me. The daughter you called a daydreamer. The one you told to get her head out of the clouds. The one who was never enough for you." Mom's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "We just wanted what was best for you." "No," I said softly. "You wanted what was easiest for you." Silence swallowed us whole. I stepped back, the echo of my heels sharp in the cavernous room. "You can stay. Both of you. But you stay on my terms. One misstep, one slip back into the old ways, and you're out. You live off your pensions like the rest of the world." Dad's shoulders sagged. Mom clutched her purse so tightly her knuckles turned bone white. "This isn't the end," Dad said, his voice barely above a whisper. I met his gaze without blinking. "No, it's the beginning." When they left, I stood alone in the glass box, the city humming beneath me. I felt something loosen in my chest, a tightness that had been there since the first time I realized I'd have to fight for every scrap of respect they were too stingy to give. My phone buzzed. Jess again. "Mora's downstairs," she said. "She wants to know if you have a minute." "Tell her I'll meet her in the lobby," I said. It's time she saw what the real company looks like at lunch rush. As I rode the elevator down, I caught my reflection in the mirrored panels. For once, I didn't look like an imposter wearing my father's legacy like a costume. I looked like the woman who owned it all. Mistakes, scars, triumphs. And I wasn't done yet. The next part picks up exactly here. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby with a soft hiss, and I stepped out to find Mora waiting near the large windows that overlooked the courtyard. She looked more grounded today. Jeans, simple flats, hair pulled into a low ponytail. She didn't look like the princess of a company she'd inherited without question. She looked like a new recruit about to learn what the trenches felt like. She perked up when she saw me. "You really came down." I raised an eyebrow. "Did you think I wouldn't?" She shrugged, fiddling with her phone. "Honestly, I wasn't sure." "Come on," I said, nodding toward the revolving doors. "We're grabbing lunch. Not the rooftop bistro you like, either. The cafeteria. Ground floor. Employees only." Mora made a face, but to her credit, she didn't complain. She followed me through the maze of glass and steel, down a flight of stairs, lined with black and white photos of Dad shaking hands with politicians and smiling in ribbon-cutting ceremonies. The same photos that used to make me feel like a fraud when I walked past them. Now they were just history. Good PR, nothing more. The cafeteria was alive with the midday rush. The hum of voices. the clatter of trays, the hiss of the espresso machine. It all reminded me why I loved this company when I first stepped in. The people who actually made things work weren't the ones who wore $1,000 suits. They were here, grabbing 10-minute lunches before heading back to work that no one noticed when they did it right. Maura hovered near the entrance. "Do they know? About you, I mean." I grabbed a tray and handed her one. "They know enough. Some of them knew before you did." She winced. "Great. So they probably hate me." I shot her a look. "Then give them a reason not to." We moved down the line. I ordered a simple sandwich and a black coffee. Maura hesitated, eyeing the pre-packaged salads before picking a sandwich, too. At the register, the cashier, a woman with a name tag that read Maya, froze when she saw us. Her eyes darted to me, then to Maura, then back. "Ms. Merrick," she said. "And Maura, right?" Maura flushed. "Hi, yes, just Maura." Maya's lips twitched. "This one's on the house?" "No," I said firmly, sliding my card across. "We pay like everyone else. That's how it works now." Maya nodded, her eyes warm with something like approval. "Good to know." We carried our trays to a corner table by the windows. Maura sat stiffly, unwrapping her sandwich like she expected it to bite her. "This is weird," she muttered. "It's supposed to be," I said. "Look around. These people work their asses off. They don't get dinners in rooftop restaurants. They don't get promotions handed to them because of who they're related to. They keep this company alive while you sit in a glass box pretending you're the one doing the heavy lifting." She swallowed hard. "I know." "Do you?" I asked sharply. "Because if you did, you'd have been down here once in a while. You'd know their names. You'd know what they need. You'd know why the shipment department is pissed about the new policies you approved without reading the fine print." Her eyes widened. "What policies?" I pulled my phone from my bag, opening an email from last week. "This one. The new overtime cap. You cut it to make the budget look good on your quarterly report. Did you think they'd just work the same hours for free? Now we're 2 weeks behind on the biggest client order we've had all year." She buried her face in her hands. "God, I didn't even—" "No," I said, voice low but firm. "You didn't, and that's the point. This is what I'm trying to teach you. Everything you do up there echoes down here. When you screw up, they bleed for it. And they remember who made them bleed." She sat up slowly, her shoulders trembling. "Then help me fix it." I leaned back, studying her. "Why should I?" She blinked at me. "Because you said you would. Because you said you'd teach me." "And because?" She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. "Because if I don't learn this, I don't deserve that office, or the paycheck, or any of it." For the first time, I believed her. I picked up my coffee, taking a long sip. "Good. First step. After lunch, we're walking over to the shipment floor. You're going to apologize, not in an email, not through a memo, face to face. You're going to stand there and tell them you screwed up. Then you're going to listen to what they need to fix it." She looked like I'd told her to strip naked and dance on the tables. "In front of everyone?" "Yes, in front of everyone. They need to see that you're not just another spoiled suit who hides behind a door when things get hard." She took a shaky breath. "Okay, fine." We ate the rest of our lunch in silence, though I caught her glancing around the cafeteria, eyes scanning faces like she was trying to memorize them. It was a start. When we stood to leave, Maya called after her. "Good luck, Maura." Maura paused, then turned and managed a small, genuine smile. "Thanks, Maya." As we rode the elevator back up, I could feel her heartbeat in the tense way she stood beside me. When we stepped out onto the shipment floor, the air was thick with the hum of conveyor belts and the low thud of boxes being stacked. I folded my arms. "Go on." Maura looked at me like she wanted to run. Then she squared her shoulders and stepped forward, raising her voice over the mechanical din. "Can I have everyone's attention for a second?" The workers turned. Some of them glared. A few crossed their arms. One man, shoulders broad and grease smudged on his collar, raised an eyebrow. Mora swallowed hard. I'm the reason you're working double to make up for the backlog. I made a decision I didn't understand. I'm sorry. It was wrong. And I'm here to listen. Whatever you need, I'll find a way to make it happen. Silence. Then the big guy stepped forward, arms crossed. You're the one who slashed our overtime? She nodded. Yes, and I know it was stupid. He looked her up and down, then barked a laugh. Well, at least you're honest. Come on, I'll show you where the real problems start. You got boots? This floor chews up pretty heels? She glanced at me. I just lifted my chin. Go! She followed him into the maze of pallets and forklifts. I stayed back, watching her figure fade into the organized chaos. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a beginning. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Jess. Press is sniffing around. They want to comment on the ownership change. Want me to draft something? Asterisk. I typed back, draft it. Make it clean. Make it clear. Merrick Holdings isn't a dynasty anymore. It's a meritocracy. Asterisk. I looked out over the shipment floor, the place I'd spent countless nights balancing spreadsheets on my knees while they all slept easy at home. It felt good to stand here now, on my own terms, and deep in my chest a spark caught fire. They'd underestimated me for the last time. The next part picks up exactly here. The hum of the shipment floor faded behind me as I made my way back to my office. Each step echoed like a promise I was still making to myself. That I wouldn't back down. Not for them. Not for anyone. Not anymore. When I stepped off the elevator, Jess was waiting, her tablet balanced on her hip and an amused smile tugging at her mouth. You turned the cafeteria upside down, she said. Maya's already posted a picture on the company chat. You and Mora, trays in hand like you own the place. Well, like you actually do. I shook my head but couldn't fight the smirk. Good. Let them see it. Let them know I'm not just the name on the papers. And your sister? Jess asked, her voice careful. Trying, I said simply. That's all I'll ask from her for now. Jess's expression softened. The press statement? I nodded. She handed me the tablet, the draft already on the screen. It was direct, no fluff, no corporate word salad. Asterisk Merrick Holdings confirms that Calla Merrick is the sole majority shareholder and acting CEO. The company's direction remains focused on accountability, transparency, and merit over legacy. Asterisk. I read it twice, then tapped my signature. Send it. And get ahead of the questions. Schedule a town hall. I want every department to hear it from me, not the gossip blogs. Jess grinned. The staff will love that. Good. They should. I handed her back the tablet. Anything else? She paused. Your father called again. He wants another meeting. Says it's urgent. My jaw tightened. Tell him I'm busy. He can put in a request like everyone else. Jess whistled under her breath but didn't argue. She turned to go, then looked back. Oh, and there's someone in the lobby asking for you. Didn't give a name, but he says he's an old friend. Should I send security? I frowned. An old friend? Should I kick him out? I thought about it, then shook my head. No, I'll handle it. ... The lobby hummed with the low buzz of people moving in and out, their voices bouncing off the marble walls. I spotted him immediately, leaning against the glass windows near the revolving doors. Crisp jacket, hands stuffed in his pockets, an easy grin that made my heart do a funny little stutter before I crushed it back down. Logan Brenner, the one who'd slipped through my fingers years ago when I was too busy saving everyone else to save what we had. When he saw me, his grin widened. Ms. Merrick, he drawled, pushing off the glass. Running the family empire now? What are you doing here, Logan? I crossed my arms, fighting the flush that threatened my cheeks. I haven't heard from you in... Too long, he finished. I know, but I heard the news. Couldn't help myself. I had to see it with my own eyes. See what? Dot. You, he said simply. Owning the room, owning them, owning everything they said you'd never touch. His words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I gestured for him to follow me toward a quiet corner near the coffee bar. So what, you came to gloat? No, he said, leaning closer, lowering his voice. I came to offer you something. I raised an eyebrow. What could you possibly have that I'd want? He chuckled. Information. The kind you'll want before your father tries to make his next move. A chill slid down my spine. What do you know, Logan? He glanced around, then pulled a folded document from his inner pocket and slid it across the table. Your father's been busy, and not in ways you'd approve of. I unfolded it, my eyes scanning the lines of text. Shell companies. Off-the-books accounts. Transfer requests. It read like a blueprint for an attempted coup. He's planning to siphon funds, I said flatly. Logan nodded. He's counting on you being too busy cleaning up Mora's mess to notice. I looked up sharply. Why are you helping me? Because I believe in you, he said simply. Always did. And maybe because I want to see what happens when you win. I closed the file and tucked it under my arm. This isn't over. Never is with you, Calla, he said, his grin softer now. Just watch your back. He's desperate. Desperate men make messy choices. I didn't trust him. Not completely. But I trusted the paper in my hand more than I trusted the smiles my father still threw at me. Thanks, Logan, I said quietly. He shrugged. Don't thank me yet. Just remember who your friends are when the knives come out. ... Back upstairs, I found Mora pacing outside my office, her hair damp from sweat and the chill of the loading docks. Where have you been? She asked. Putting out a fire you don't even know is burning yet, I said, pushing past her. Come in. We need to talk. She closed the door behind us and stood, arms crossed. You look like you just dug up a body. Close. I dropped the document onto my desk. Dad's moving money. Trying to pull strings with board members who don't even exist anymore. He thinks he can force me out if he gets enough leverage. Her face went pale. But he can't, right? You own it outright. I do, I said. But if he drags this through the courts, if he makes enough noise, he could tarnish the company's name so badly we'd bleed clients. He's willing to set the whole thing on fire just to spite me. She sank into the chair across from me. So what do we do? I looked at her. Really looked. The old Mora would have cried, would have run to Dad, would have begged him to fix it. But this version? She was waiting for a plan. We get ahead of him, I said. We expose it ourselves, full transparency. We tell the press before he can spin it. We show the employees exactly who's been risking their jobs to line his pockets. Her eyes widened. That'll destroy him. I clenched my jaw. He's the one holding the match. I'm just making sure he doesn't burn the rest of us with him. She reached across the desk and laid her hand over mine. Whatever you need, I'm here. I looked down at her fingers. Once they'd been the hands of a sister I couldn't stand. Now they felt like an anchor. I nodded. Then get ready, I said. Because this is about to get very, very public. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, the city bracing for a storm that had nothing to do with the weather. The next part picks up exactly here. The storm hit just after dusk, rattling the glass walls of my office as if the building itself were trying to warn me what was coming. I stood at the window, watching rain blur the city lights into a smear of golden red. Beside me, Mora sat cross-legged on the couch, laptop balanced on her knees, eyes darting between spreadsheets and the dozens of emails pouring in from every corner of the company. She'd insisted on staying late. Part of me wanted to send her home, to protect her from what I knew would happen when the news broke. But she'd earned her seat tonight. This was her lesson, too. Jess stepped in, hair damp from the dash she'd made to the street for fresh coffee. She handed me a cup, her expression tense. It's out, she said. Press release went live 10 minutes ago. The calls are already starting. I took the cup, letting the heat seep into my palms. And Dad? Jess hesitated. He's called 3 times. Voicemail is full. He left a message for Maura, too. Maura flinched, her fingers frozen on the keyboard. I'm not picking up. Not tonight. Good, I said. He'll try to spin this. He'll paint us as ungrateful, spoiled, traitorous. But the paper trail is airtight. He can't deny the transfers. He can't explain the shell companies. I crossed to my desk and tapped the tablet Jess handed me. The headlines were already multiplying. Merrick Holdings CEO exposes father's secret accounts. Family dynasty implodes as daughter takes control. Golden girl no more. How Calla Merrick turned the tables. Each one cut and soothed in equal measure. Maura looked up at me. You really think they'll stand by us, the staff? I gestured out the window, where rain lashed against steel and glass. They're not here for him. They're here because they believe this company can still be better than him. A soft knock. Jess stepped aside, letting Logan in. He was soaked, hair dripping onto his collar, but his grin was infuriatingly intact. You look like you just fought a hurricane, I said. He shrugged, dropping a soggy folder onto my desk. Might as well have. You have a leak. Maura sat up straight. A leak? Logan nodded. One of your father's old cronies. He's been feeding him updates from inside. Nothing catastrophic yet. Just enough to help your dad spin a pity party for the press. I felt my jaw tighten. Who is it? Logan pulled out a photo, sliding it across the desk. It was grainy, taken through a rain-smeared window, but the face was unmistakable. Maura's gasp made my blood run cold. Trevor? My pulse hammered in my ears. Trevor, Maura's perfect boyfriend, Dad's golden future son-in-law. The one person who'd stood by her through every tantrum, every petty squabble. Or so we'd thought. Are you sure? Maura whispered. Logan tapped the photo. I don't follow the wrong people, Calla. He's been feeding your dad talking points for weeks. He was in on the siphoning too. There's money trail proving it. Maura looked at me, her eyes wide and raw. You think I knew? No, I said. But you're going to fix it. She blinked. How? I turned to Logan. Where is he now? At your father's house. They're probably drafting the rebuttal as we speak. I grabbed my coat and checked the time. Then we pay them a visit. Maura's voice shook. You want me to go there? Yes, I said. Because if you don't confront him now, you'll never get your power back. He'll always think you're his puppet. Jess stepped forward, hand on Maura's shoulder. I'll prep a driver. You shouldn't do this alone. Maura's jaw set, shoulders squaring like I'd only seen once before. On the shipment floor, surrounded by workers who'd made her sweat for her apology. No, she said. I'll do it, but you're coming with me. Her eyes met mine, and for once they weren't pleading. They were demanding. Deal, I said. .. The storm made the drive feel like an interrogation. The town car's headlights cut through sheets of rain, wipers fighting to keep up. Maura sat beside me, fists clenched in her lap. I watched her in the window's reflection. Her face was pale but set in stone. What if he doesn't let us in? She asked. Then we make him, I said simply. When we pulled up to Dad's house, the porch lights glowed like a trap. Trevor's car sat in the driveway, its polished surface streaked with rain. Maura sucked in a breath. Do I talk first? No, I said. You listen first. Then you decide how much of your voice you're willing to use. The door opened before we even knocked. Dad stood there, tie askew, hair wild. Behind him, Trevor hovered near the dining room, his face pale but defiant. Calla, Dad snapped. What the hell is this? You come to gloat? Drag your sister into this mess. Maura stepped forward. She didn't drag me. I'm here because you lied to me. Trevor stepped out from behind Dad. Baby, you don't understand. It's more complicated than you think. Don't, Maura said, her voice slicing through the room. Don't you dare baby me. Dad raised his hands. Maura, sweetheart. She spun on him. No, you don't get to use that word. Not tonight. You lied. You risked everything we built. Everything she built. Because you couldn't stand the idea that she did what you couldn't. His mouth worked, but no words came out. She turned to Trevor. And you used me. You stood in our house and talked about family while you whispered in his ear behind my back. Trevor stepped forward. I did it for us. I did it because you deserve more than... Mora's slap cracked through the room like a gunshot. He stumbled back, hand to his cheek, eyes wide. I deserve the truth, she said. I deserve better than you. She looked at me. I'm done here. I nodded. Good, so am I. Dad stepped forward, but I held up a hand. If you drag my name through the mud, I'll drag every secret you've buried with it. Try me. You think the press has seen everything? They haven't. Don't test me, Dad. I promise you'll lose. His face crumpled. Not in anger this time, but in something closer to fear. Trevor tried to speak, but Mora brushed past him, shoulders straight as an arrow. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. Mora stood on the porch, her breath misting in the cold night air. How do you feel? I asked. She cracked a grin, fierce and sharp, like I just burned down a house I never wanted to live in. I draped my arm over her shoulders. For the first time in a long time, she didn't flinch away. Come on, I said. We've got a company to save. We walked down the steps together as thunder rumbled in the distance, but for once, the storm felt like it was ours to command. The next part picks up exactly here. The drive back to the city was quiet, but it wasn't the same kind of silence that had always suffocated us. This one was lighter, emptied of secrets, full of possibility. Mora leaned her head against the window, eyes tracking the neon blur of passing traffic. Every so often, I caught her reflection in the glass. The bruised swell of her cheekbone where her own courage had landed a slap that echoed through everything we'd ever been taught to keep buried. When we pulled up outside my apartment building, she didn't move to get out. She just sat there, breathing like she'd run a marathon inside her own chest. You can crash at my place tonight, I said. Dad's gonna be on a warpath when he realizes you're not crawling back. She snorted. Let him, I'm done crawling anywhere. She rubbed her temples. I'm sorry about Trevor. Don't be, I said. He was never your future, just a footnote. Her laugh was soft, bitter, but it didn't have the sting it once did. God, I feel stupid. Don't. You saw him for what he was when it mattered. I squeezed her hand. That's all that counts. She stayed the night on my couch, curled up in one of my old university sweatshirts. I lay awake in my room, staring at the ceiling as rain tapped the window, my mind a whirl of strategies and threats. I didn't regret the exposure, but I knew my father well enough to know he wouldn't go quietly. He'd claw at the walls until he found a crack big enough to crawl through. And bring me down with him if he could. I just had to make sure he didn't find it. ... By morning, the city was washed clean. I brewed coffee in the tiny kitchen while Mora rummaged through my fridge, poking at the sad half-carton of eggs and the single bruised apple I'd forgotten I had. You really live like this? She asked, cracking an egg into a pan. What's wrong with it? It's so... normal, she said. You're the CEO. You own a company Dad spent half his life bragging about. And you live in a 2-bedroom walk-up with no food. I don't need a penthouse to feel powerful, I said, leaning against the counter. I need good coffee, a door I can lock, and no one telling me who I'm supposed to be. She glanced over her shoulder, her expression softening. I get that now. We ate breakfast at my tiny dining table, her hair wet from the shower, my phone buzzing every 5 seconds with updates from Jess. Logan had texted too. Your father's still making calls, but the press isn't buying his sob story. Good job. Asterisk. I shot back. I owe you a drink. Asterisk. He replied. Or 3. When you're ready. Asterisk. When Mora finished her toast, she pushed her plate away, folded her hands, and looked at me dead on. What happens now? I smiled faintly. Now we rebuild. ... The office was different when we walked in together. People turned to look at us, some with relief, some with curiosity, some with outright fear. The press leak had cracked the glass walls wide open. There were no more polite illusions now. Jess met us in the lobby, her eyes flicking to Maura's bruised cheek before settling back on me. "We need you in the boardroom. Full staff meeting. They're rattled." "Good," I said. "They should be." Maura fell in step beside me as we rode the elevator up. "What do you want me to do?" "Stand there," I said. "Let them see you. Let them see you didn't run." The boardroom was packed. Not just managers and VPs, but floor supervisors, department heads, people who'd never been invited up here before but who kept the gears turning every day. I saw Harris from the Midwest division, pale but still here, Maya from the cafeteria, even the big guy from shipment, arms crossed over his barrel chest, glaring like he was daring me to waste his time. Good. I stepped to the head of the table. Jess handed me the tablet with my bullet points, but I set it down without looking. "You've all seen the news," I began. "You've seen what my father did. You know who enabled him." I gestured to Maura. "She's not one of them. She stood up when it mattered." A few skeptical looks. I didn't blame them. "This company will not be run by secrets anymore," I continued. "No more backroom deals. No more golden children and closed doors. If you've got ideas, bring them to me. If you see something wrong, call it out. If you want a seat at this table, earn it." I let my eyes sweep the room. No one here is untouchable, not even me. For a heartbeat, the room was dead silent. Then Harris raised a hand, voice rough. "What about our jobs? If the investors pull out?" "They won't," I said. "Because they've seen the books now. They know exactly what was bleeding this company dry. And it wasn't you. It wasn't the night shift. It wasn't the shipment crew. It was the people who thought they were too important to follow the rules." Maya spoke up next. "And if they try to take it back?" I smiled, slow and fierce. "Let them try. This is mine now. Ours if you want it." There it was, the flicker, the shift. Doubt melting into the smallest ember of trust. Maura cleared her throat. "And for the record," she said, voice shaking just a little, "I screwed up. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. And if you see me slipping, call me out. I mean it." She looked at me, her eyes asking a question I'd waited years to hear. "Is this enough?" It was a start. When the meeting broke, people lingered. Some shook my hand, some just nodded. The big guy from shipment clapped Maura on the shoulder, and she didn't flinch. Logan was waiting by the door when I stepped out. "You've got a gift for this, you know," he said, breaking them down, building them up again. "It's not a gift," I said. "It's survival." He chuckled. "Whatever you call it, it's working. Want that drink yet?" I studied his face, the easy grin, the spark in his eyes that had never quite gone out. "Soon," I said, "but not tonight." "Rain check?" he asked. "Always," I said, and for once, the word didn't feel like a lie. That night, when the office lights dimmed and the cleaners started their slow, patient sweep of marble floors and glass walls, Maura knocked on my door. She stepped inside, arms crossed, hair still damp from the drizzle she'd walked through to clear her head. "You did good today," I said. "So did you," she said. "But I need to ask you something." "What?" She bit her lip. "If Dad calls me again, should I answer?" I looked at her, really looked, and saw not the sister who'd stood behind him for so long, but the woman who'd stood in front of him when it counted. "That's up to you," I said. "But if you do, make sure you're the one who hangs up first." She smiled, a small, sharp curve of her lips that told me she understood. When she left, I turned off my lamp and looked out at the city below. Somewhere in that glittering maze of lights, my father was planning his next move. Maybe Trevor, too, but this time, they'd find no cracks to crawl through. I wasn't the girl they'd forgotten at a birthday dinner. I was the woman they'd never see coming again. The next part picks up exactly here. The days that followed felt like standing on a fault line, waiting for the next tremor to hit. Every morning I arrived before sunrise, slipping through the revolving doors while the city still slept. Every night I was the last to leave, the hum of the janitor's vacuum. My only companion as I reviewed contracts, staff reports, and the steady trickle of messages from people who finally felt safe enough to tell the truth. Maura was there too, every day. She'd taken my words to heart. No more hiding behind a glass door. She walked the floors, sat with the team leads, listened to complaints that had never made it past the first layer of middle management before. And she took the heat when she deserved it. I watched her once, standing on the factory floor as the big guy from shipment laid into her about overtime policy again. She didn't flinch, she didn't run, she wrote it down and promised to fix it. And then she did. Jess moved through the chaos like a ghost with a clipboard, managing the flood of media requests. The headlines kept shifting. First the betrayal, then the leaks, then the grudging respect for what we were trying to build. And in the quiet corners, Logan was there too. Not every day, but often enough that I felt him in the hum of my phone at 2 a.m., when he'd text some snarky line about how my father was trying to buy new allies in places I'd already salted the earth. One night, after I'd locked the office behind me, I found him waiting by my car. "You're going to get yourself killed working this late," he said, voice warm in the chill air. "You worried about me now?" I asked. "Always," he said. And he meant it in the maddening, infuriating way that made part of me want to scream, and the other part want to lean into his warmth. "Want to walk a bit?" I hesitated, then nodded. "All right." We walked through the city, its neon signs bleeding color onto the wet pavement. He didn't press. He didn't pry. He just let the silence stretch between us, until my shoulders finally dropped from around my ears. "He won't stop," I said, my voice so low it almost got lost in the rumble of traffic. "My father, he'll keep clawing at it until he finds something I missed." Logan stopped, hands in his pockets, eyes soft but sharp. "Then don't miss anything." I laughed. "A brittle thing." "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "But it's the only way you'll ever sleep again." We stood under a flickering streetlight, and he looked at me like he was trying to memorize every line that had changed since he'd last known me. He leaned in, close enough that I felt his breath on my temple. "You're not alone in this, Kala. You never were. You just thought you had to be." I could have said something then. Something soft. Something that would have cracked open the fortress I'd built around myself brick by brick. But the words caught in my throat, so I just pressed my forehead to his shoulder for the barest second before I stepped back. "I should go," I said. He didn't argue. He just watched me walk away, like he always did. .. The next morning, Maura was waiting in my office. When I arrived, she was half asleep, curled up in my chair with a stack of printed reports scattered around her like a paper nest. "What time did you get in?" I asked. She yawned. "Haven't left." "You know Harris? Midwest Harris?" "What about him?" She pushed her hair out of her face. "He's been double booking vendors. Says it's to cover supply chain issues, but there's extra invoices with matching kickbacks to a personal account. I found the bank trail." I whistled low. "Look at you." She made a face. "Don't patronize me." "I'm not. I mean it." I sat on the edge of my desk. "So? What do you want to do?" She pulled her knees up, hugging them to her chest. "What would you do?" "Fire him," I said. "In public. Make an example." "And you'd be right," she said, a spark in her tired eyes. "But I want to try something else." "Like what?" "He's been here 30 years. He's not going to change, but maybe we can use him before he goes. Make him talk. Find out who else has been helping Dad behind our backs." It was ruthless. It was smart. It was exactly what I would have done, if I'd ever had the chance to do it my way. "Set it up," I said. I want it done by the end of the week." She grinned, all teeth. "Deal. ... 2 days later, the town hall filled the largest conference space we had. Harris stood on the stage, sweat beading at his temples, as Mora read off every line of his scheme to the staff, point by point, in that steady voice that made it clear she wasn't asking for their judgment. She was telling them the truth. When she finished, the room didn't erupt. It didn't even buzz. It just settled, like an exhale they'd all been holding. Harris tried to protest, tried to bluff his way through half apologies and excuses, but Mora didn't blink. "You're done," she said, her voice calm. "But you're going to sit with compliance tonight and tell us everyone you paid off. And if you lie, you'll regret it." He looked at me, desperate, but I just raised an eyebrow. "It's your call, Harris. Lie or talk. Either way, you're gone." He talked. By the next morning, Jess's inbox was full of resignations from the old guard, people who knew they were next if they didn't jump first. The rot was surfacing faster than I'd hoped. And Mora? She stood in the middle of it like a storm she'd learned how to command. When the last resignation hit her desk, she came into my office, dropped the letter on my table, and sat opposite me. "Do you believe me now?" she asked, voice quiet. I looked at her. Really looked. The smudges under her eyes, the set of her jaw, the unsteady way her fingers tapped the arm of the chair like she was holding herself together one heartbeat at a time. "I believe you," I said. She let out a shaky laugh that cracked into something like a sob. I rounded the desk, pulled her into a hug that felt like it belonged to another lifetime. A better one. The one we might actually get to build now. When she pulled back, wiping her eyes, she smiled. "You're not getting rid of me now, you know." "I'd be disappointed if you left," I said. She stood, her voice lighter than it had been in months. "Come on, there's still work to do." Outside the window, the city glowed in the early dusk, and for once, I didn't feel like it was waiting to swallow me whole. I felt like it was finally mine to shape. The next part picks up exactly here. The sunrise spilled through my office windows, painting the boardroom in shades of gold and rose. It felt symbolic, like the first true morning after a storm that had tested every bone in our bodies. I stood at the head of the table, heart pounding with a warmth that wasn't just triumph. It was peace. Mora sat beside me, her posture steady and confident. The early morning meeting was packed again, but this time it wasn't about damage control. It was about celebration and vision. I watched as employees filed in, their faces bright with curiosity rather than fear. I raised my hand for silence. Around me, the chatter faded into expectant stillness. "It's been a long journey," I began, voice calm but carrying every ounce of sincerity I felt. A journey none of us expected, and one that tested us in ways I never imagined. But here we are, together, stronger, honest, and ready to build something real. Heads nodded. A few smiles broke out. I felt the weight of every choice I'd made settle into something solid, something I could call home. "Today," I continued, "we're not just relaunching a company. We're renewing a promise that Merrick Holdings stands for integrity, merit, and courage. That we celebrate our successes, learn from our mistakes, and honor every person who makes this place more than just glass and steel." I gestured to Mora, my sister, who stood by me when the storm was at its fiercest, who learned what it truly means to lead, and who has earned every word of respect in this room. Mora stood, her gaze sweeping the room. "Thank you, Kala. But thank you to all of you. For giving me a second chance, for trusting me to prove myself, and for reminding me that family can be more than blood. It can be choice." Applause filled the room, warm and genuine. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, one of joy and release. I turned back to the crowd. "What's next?" "We expand our training programs. We launch the new equity sharing plan so every team member can be an owner. And we invest in communities that believed in us before we believed in ourselves." A ripple of excitement passed through the room. Ideas flew, energy crackled like electricity in the air. After the meeting, as the staff began to disperse, I lingered by the window. The city stretched out before me, vast and full of promise. Mora joined me, slipping an arm around my waist. "We did it," she whispered. I rested my head against hers. "We did, and this time, we do it right." Her hand tightened on mine. "To the future," I smiled. "To us." Around us, the office hummed with life. Conversations, laughter, the clatter of keyboards creating a symphony of possibility. I turned to Mora, eyes bright. "You know, Logan was right." She raised an eyebrow. "What did he say?" I laughed softly. "That I'm never alone in this, that I just needed to remember who my friends are." She grinned. "And who your sister is?" I nodded. "Exactly." We stood there. Two sisters, two leaders, two hearts beating as one against the pulse of a new day. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications.